Fedora Linux, unlike many distros, actually has people that are paid to work on it. They have an engineering team. They have the ability to plan things and make goals for the future. Now, I and many other people may not always agree with those goals as they tend to affect other distros, but they do have a vision. And recently, they unveiled Fedora Strategy 2028. This is basically a really high-level roadmap for the next 5 years. Not necessarily specific implementation changes, more like general project goals to strive towards. This is broken down into 3 main sections and 2 further subsections in each of those sections. Also, it has what is known as a North Star, or guiding metric for success. Double the number of Fedora contributors weekly. Now that sounds like an incredibly lofty goal, but do remember, this is a 5-year plan. This isn't supposed to happen next month or a year from now. And with that kind of time frame, I could certainly see it happening. Linux right now is only getting more and more attention, more and more mainstream attention, and sure, I could see that going on, but I cannot predict the future. With that out of the way, let's get right into it with the first section. Now, I'm not going to read it from here because this is tiny. Luckily, Matthew included all of it in text form as well. The first section, Fedora is for everyone. First subsection, accessibility. Each of these points is broken down into an objective and then the impact it's going to have. Fedora websites and docs use the current best practices for Ally, A11Y. This is shorthand for accessibility. I had never heard this term being used before, but apparently it's industry standard. I think the reason why it's used is no one can spell accessibility. And the impact, expanded access to information allows people we were not able to reach before to enter the Fedora world. Now, someone in the comments actually made a funny point about this one. Right here. Regarding Fedora is for everyone, using abbreviations like Ally makes it harder for non-native speaker to understand text. Is using/providing basic English considered current best practice? But it's not a super important point, so we'll just let them use it. Fedora Linux editions are the best available open source Ally tech. People who benefit from assistive technology can become Fedora Linux users, and our project tooling follows best Ally practices. Users who benefit from assistive technology can become Fedora project contributors. Now, I don't use any assistive tech, whether that's vision-based, hearing-based, alternate input devices. I use keyboard and mouse, and that's how it goes. This is an area where, excuse the pun, I am completely blind on. And I think most developers kind of are as well. So relying on what other people say is the best thing to do is probably the best idea. Rather than reinventing the wheel, just listen to the experts. And I'm sure everybody involved is already well aware of what needs to be done. Red Hat last year was making some hires in this direction, so I wouldn't be surprised if over the next couple of years, there are more people who focus on accessibility being hired to work on this project, work on GNOME, and everything else involved with Fedora. Now, onto the second subsection, reaching the world. Fedora Linux is available pre-installed on more systems from more vendors. Reduced barrier to entry lets more people try Fedora. While most of us who actively use Linux are going to just install whatever Linux distro we want to be using, most people when they buy a computer just use the operating system that was pre-installed. Prior to, Windows 8? It was pretty common for people to just never update their OS and just keep the same one until the computer died. Now over on the Windows side, it kind of forces you to update and all that fun stuff, but people are lazy. And if you can remove that barrier to entry, more people might give it a shot. And while it's nice to support the little Linux-only vendors, I hope they include a lot more of the mainstream vendors as well. The HP, Dells, Lenovo's of the world that regular people buy computers from. Fedora is widely available in cloud providers and CI services. Fedora is perceived as the default developer platform. Now, I don't know what they are looking at, but I don't know what cloud providers or CI services don't offer Fedora. Any of the major platforms that anybody would remotely care about, Fedora is an option. I'm sure they know something I don't, but I'm really confused by this one. As for the impact, this kinda makes sense. In many ways, it seems like they want to dethrone Ubuntu. Look, if it happens, it happens. I don't see that happening though. Ubuntu is just so ingrained at this point. And Fedora maintains a strong network of thriving local communities around the world. As a distributed project, we are more diverse and resilient. Now, many projects obviously are worldwide projects, but English is kind of the default language of the FOSS world. There don't seem to be that many really strong non-English speaking communities. I think this is one area where a lot of development can be done. I don't know if that's what they're really aiming with this, but it would be interesting. On to the second section. Fedora leads in Linux distribution development, with the first subsection being community sustainability. Everyone in Fedora has a mentor, and everyone in Fedora is a mentor. Better onboarding, growth for current contributors, and continuity of expertise, and reduced lottery factor. Now, I'd never heard the term lottery factor before. This is another term for bus factor. So making sure that people are encouraged to help each other, getting involved in the project if someone is new to the project, helping them out and getting them up to speed so that when someone else is new, that person can bring them up to speed. And when it comes to the bus factor, making it so if something goes wrong, a part of the project doesn't just die. Someone else can take it up and keep things going. We have insight into community health and trends through meaningful metrics. We know where we're succeeding and what needs help. By measuring more than Git commits, we can highlight more than coding. Obviously, highlighting developers doing great work is always a good thing, but there's more to a distro, more to a community than just the number of commits being made. There are the spins being made, there are community events being held. There's all of these extra things that keep people excited. Modernize our communications tooling, an easier, more friendly face for the project, and higher quality discussion for all, leading to increased involvement and engagement. I don't know if modernizing the tooling will lead to higher quality, but it will lead to at least a higher frequency and potentially higher involvement. Now, I don't know what they mean about modernizing their tooling, because at least from the outside, it seems like they're doing a lot better than many other distros are. They don't rely heavily on IRC or a mailing list. They have a forum. They have a matrix. They are pretty much as modern as any other modern distro, but I'm sure things will happen over the next 5 years that maybe they want to try out. I don't know, maybe they go down the route of the Arco Linux maintainer, making thousands of YouTube videos about every single possible thing with the distro. I doubt it, but hey, it's a possibility. On to the next subsection, technology, innovation, and leadership. Fedora is a popular source for containers and Flatpaks. Fedora is a trusted source of software beyond our own base OS, reaching more users and potential contributors. Now, I do think they can very easily achieve popular source for containers. In many ways, they have already achieved that. As for a popular source of Flatpaks, I believe they are referring to Fedora Flatpaks, their custom Flatpak repo that is based on RPMs from the Fedora repos. I don't know if anyone would choose something on Fedora Flatpaks if it's already available on FlatHub. Especially in many cases, Especially in many cases, the application on FlatHub is maintained by the developers of the application. I would trust them a lot more than a distro like Fedora, but there are places where they can certainly fill in the gaps, and I could see some people wanting to do so. Now, this is a big one. Immutable variants are the majority of Fedora Linux in use. New way of doing things brings excitement and new energy. Now, I knew a lot of users were interested in immutable Linux distributions like Fedora, Kinoe, Kanoi, whatever the name's supposed to be. I didn't know there was this much interest in the Fedora team. I have gone on record to say that I don't think immutable distros will ever be the primary way that people use Linux. But there is a possibility that I'm wrong. And if this does happen with Fedora, a lot of distros tend to copy Fedora. I could see immutability become like this general thing that people typically use, and then only like the hardcore people will use a regular distro like we have now. We integrate programming language stack ecosystems. Developers choose Fedora Linux because we provide a straightforward programming environment that works the way they expect. Like with some of the earlier ones, I don't know what they're really getting at with this. I feel like they're pretty much already there. On to the final section. We build on the success of Fedora Next. First subsection, additions, spins, and interests. Each edition has a story for each release. Better fuel for marketing, leading to more interest and press. So rather than just being like, okay, this is Fedora 38. This is Fedora 39. This is Fedora 40. Give it an exciting reason to exist. Give it a name. Give it something that's going to get people talking about it. Hopefully that doesn't mean doing some of the stuff that Ubuntu has done in the past that has gotten them some, let's just say, negative attention. And the next two are really just linked together. It's trivial to create and maintain a new Fedora spin or remix. Niche environments bring enthusiasm greater than their size, and allow experimentation which may power future growth. More active SIGs, a SIG being a Fedora Special Interest Group. These are teams within the Fedora project that are less formal than official sub-projects. The SIGs are sometimes a first stage in the development of new projects within the Fedora project. We grow strong special interest teams and networks into other communities, neuroscientists, robotics, teachers, etc. Now, I have said many times that spins, flavors, remixes, whatever you want to call them, for the most part, don't really matter. Like, in the end, most of them are just a glorified desktop environment package and would make more sense integrated into the main project. But seeing as though that's never going to happen, and I'm always going to be the minority voice here, making it easier to make these spins, making it easier and encouraged for more people to get involved, making these distros for their specific use cases, I think is going to be a good thing for the project and is going to get more people interested in trying out Fedora in one of these different fashions. And the final subsection, ecosystem connections. Better collaborative workflow with CentOS Stream and RHEL. More resources for us, and a bigger potential contributor base through EPEL, which I really struggle to say, and similar. Get people working on Amazon Linux directly involved in Fedora as an upstream. More resources for us, and another source of resources and vested interest paid contributors. Now, I think everybody wants Amazon to get a lot more involved in Linux. You might say, but the corporate interest, whatever. Google, Intel, AMD, even Nvidia, all of these massive companies are always massive contributors in Linux. But it's very rare to see Amazon high up on that list. And I'm sure Fedora would love that support as well, and hopefully they get something from them. I don't know if they will, but you know, there's at least the wish. And the final point, collaborate on tooling, practices, and offerings with peer distros and upstream projects. Make Fedora less alien to people from other projects. Working collaboratively multiplies our efforts. I am very glad that Fedora is well aware that when people outside of the project look at them, generally they are very confused and have no idea why Fedora is doing half the stuff it's doing. So, as an outsider to the Fedora project, I wish them the best of luck. Some of these goals seem like things they've already achieved, and I'm not really sure why they are on the list, but others do seem like they're gonna be a bit of a challenge and might end up taking that full 5 years. But hopefully, whatever gets done, most of what they're trying to achieve at least makes some progress. That would ultimately be a really good result. But let me know your thoughts in the comment section down below. Do you care at all about Fedora? Do you run Fedora? Are you like these weird people in the comment section where a bunch of people stopped paying attention to the point being made and started focusing on the North Star metaphor to the point where there is actually a survey that was being held that I cannot find anymore, down here, to change the name from North Star to some other star because people in the Southern Hemisphere might not recognize it. That was not the main point. That didn't matter at all. I think people can work it out. Are you one of those people? Let me know down below. That's going to be it for me. And if you liked the video, go and like the video. And if you really like the video and you want to become one of these amazing people over here, go check out my Patreon, Scribe, Stanley Bearer Pay, linked down below. That's going to be it for me, and I'm out.